The Secretary of Defense can weigh into, is the Pentagon preparing for military deployment to Chicago? And with what you said there, are you waiting for the governor?
We're ready to go anywhere. We have a full complement of great human beings. We're full. You know, our military is full. We were way empty 1 year ago. Now we're full. So we can go anywhere on less than 24 hours notice.
Are you waiting for the governor?
And we're doing a lot to interdict to stop drugs from coming in too. We have ships out on sea. You know, we have nobody coming through our border anymore. Nobody. Doesn't that feel good to know that you don't have prisoners coming in and, you know, killers, murderers? We had 11,888 murderers come in, led in by the Biden administration. Many of them have been captured, but we still have a couple of thousand that are out there. Some of them, 50% of them killed more than one person, okay? But a lot of them have been captured. What they've done to our country, these people that circle this moron that we had behind this desk, what they've done to our country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. I mean, if you think so much of our time is devoted to correcting a problem that all they had to do is say, close the borders. Remember when he said, well, I have no power to close the border. I have to go back and get an act from Congress. I didn't get an act from Congress. I came in, I said, close the borders. And Tom Homan, who's not here, has been fantastic, Christy, right? Yes. Tom Homan is great. He's a fantastic man and respected by everybody. But I said, Tom, close the borders. Christy, close the borders. The borders were closed. We didn't go to Congress and get permission. We just closed the borders. And in the last 3 months, hard to believe this one too, in the last 3 months, we've had 0 people come into our country illegally through the southern border. Nobody would have said that's possible. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, MS-13 gangbanger and human trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia turned himself into ICE in Baltimore. Do you have any comment on this? And why are the Democrats so emotionally attached to this man who beats his wife and is part of a terrorist organization?
Because they think he's going to be good for votes, and I think he's very bad for votes. These people are deranged. He's not good for votes. He beat the hell out of his wife. His wife is afraid to even talk about him. She's been mauled by this animal. And, you know, through a system of liberal courts, you know, he's doing things. But, no, we have that under control. And Pam has got that very much under control. Do you want to comment on it, Pam?
No, we've got him under control. He will no longer terrorize our country. He's currently charged with human smuggling, including children. The guy needs to be in prison. He doesn't need to be on the streets like all these liberals want him to be. And as part of this operation here in DC, we've also taken off MS-13 members. We've taken, I think just last night, we got a TDA guy off our streets right here, right around from where we all work. Another TDA member gone because of this project. So we're going to keep America safe from all of these foreign terrorist organizations, including Abrego Garcia.
Okay.
Mr. President, if we could get your reaction, sir. The Israelis bombed a hospital in Gaza that killed 20 people, including 5 journalists.
When did this happen?
This happened overnight, today.
I didn't know that.
Any reaction to this? Are you
Well,
going
I'm
to
not
talk
happy
to the Prime
about it.
Minister?
I don't want to see it. At the same time, we have to end that whole nightmare. I'm the one that got the hostages out. I got them out, all of them. Steve Witkoff has been amazing. He's done a great job. But I'm the one that got them all out through my people and through me. And now we're left with probably a little bit less than 20 because I think 1 or 2 are gone. And I said a long time ago, I'm going to get them out, but when we get down to that final 10 or 20, these people aren't going to release them because they're dead after they release them. So it's a nasty situation, very nasty, horrible thing.
Mr.
Yes.
President, could you please elaborate on your post on South Korea? What were you referring to?
Well, I heard that there were raids on churches over the last few days, very vicious raids on churches by the new government in South Korea, that they even went into our military base and got information. They probably shouldn't have done that, but I heard bad things. I don't know if it's true or not. I'll be finding out. As you know, your new president's coming in just a couple of hours, coming here. I look forward to meeting him. But we won't stand for that. We just won't stand for that.
Sorry,
Yes.
Are you prepared to order National Guard troops, though, into American cities if those governors don't request the federal deployment?
I am, but I also think that, look, Chicago, everybody knows how bad it is. everybody standing there knows, we know, you don't have to be doing any studies. They should be saying, please come in. Pritzker should be saying that. You know, I did a favor for Christy Whitmer, a good favor, I think, with the fish, the carp, the China carp. Did you ever hear of it? China carp. And it's taken over your Great Lakes. You know about that, right? And she came and she wanted to know if it's possible for us to do something about it. And I said, well, I'll do it. But I think it's appropriate that the person from Illinois, the governor from Illinois, asks also. It's a tremendously expensive project, actually. It's invasive, it's horrible what's happened. And we can do it with GSA and various people. But we can do it, we're gonna just have to see what happens, okay? We're gonna have to see what happens.
Do you believe that you have the legal
But
authority
the
to order
governor
those
of
troops?
Michigan came, was very respectful, asked for it. She's done a good job. I did that. I opened the Air Force Base, you know, kept it open for F-35s and various planes, F-22s too. I did that for the state of Michigan at her request. And I will, and also at our congressmen. You know, we have congressmen that are unbelievably pro-Michigan up there. But some of this stuff, like the lakes, the Great Lakes, this is a big problem that nobody ever talks about. Most of you probably have never heard of. We have a pretty violent fish that comes from China, China carp, Chinese carp. And you see them jumping out. They jump into boats and they jump all over the place. They've got a lot of energy. And there's a way of getting rid of them. It's very expensive. And I didn't get a request from the governor of Illinois, is affected maybe more than anybody else, right? And I think until I get that request from that guy, I'm not going to do anything about it. And I feel the same way about crime. We go in, we will solve Chicago within 1 week, maybe less, but within 1 week, we will have no crime in Chicago, just like we have no crime in DC. But, you know, I don't like to go in and do it and then have somebody stand up and say what a great job he's doing on crime. And we don't want the military in our state. We don't want the military. Do you understand? Do you understand that?
Yeah, these governors will say
So I don't know.
there is no
We're going
emergency
to have a little
response.
meeting, I think. You know, I feel like we go in and we do it, like here. To a lesser extent with the mayor. She hasn't been terrible, but she hasn't been, you know, exactly saying, oh, great. She did say last night, I heard her say that, well, we really don't want the military in D.C. Well, that's, you know, not very nice, I guess. That's a little bit of a hit. But she's not as bad as some. We saved Los Angeles, and all we did is get criticized by this idiot that's running the state into the ground, right, where people are leaving. He should be thanking us, and he should be requesting us to be there. And the governor of Illinois should be. Chicago's a disaster. And the governor of Illinois should say, President, would you do us the honor of cleaning up our city? We need help. They need help. They need help.
So are you
But
waiting
without
for
that request, do you have the
We may
authority?
wait, we may or may not. We may just go in and do it, which is probably what we should do. The problem is, it's not nice when you go in and do it and somebody else is standing there saying, as we give great results, say, we don't want the military in. They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help. Just look at the crime statistics. Look at the statistics that JD said about, even I didn't know it was that bad. That's terrible. But all I know is we're being celebrated because we went an entire week. Now it's 11 days. We went an entire week without a murder. And I said, boy, that sounds terrible. I didn't know how, I actually made a speech. I didn't know how to say it because it's a great number. It's a great thing. But it sounds so bad. I mean, supposing you're from a foreign country which is properly run and they don't have murders and things, right, so much, or in some cases virtually at all. And you have somebody saying, I'm proud to announce that nobody was murdered in the capital of the United States this week. It sounds terrible, but
Mr. President, Gavin Newsom, you mentioned Gavin Newsom on crime.
Gavin Newsom, yes?
Is there a federal mechanism you're hoping to use to fight back against his redistricting constitutional amendment, or is that
Well, I think
California?
I'm going to be filing a lawsuit pretty soon, and I think we're going to be very successful in it. We're going to be filing it. through the Department of Justice. That's going to happen. And we're also going to be filing a lawsuit on blue slipping. You know, blue slips make it impossible for me as president to appoint a judge or a U.S. attorney because they have a gentleman's agreement. It's nothing memorialized. It's a gentleman's agreement that's about 100 years old, where if you have a president like a Republican and if you have a Democrat senator, that senator can stop you from appointing a judge or a U.S. attorney. In particular, those are the two, I guess anything, but those are the two that are very important. So we have numerous states where we have unbelievable people. Now, Jay Clayton was just approved in the Southern District, but he was so good. He was a top student, top schools, top everything, went to Sullivan and Cromwell, became the head of Sullivan and Cromwell, came down here, was Securities and Exchange Commission, ran it for 4 years during my term, like impeccably, beautiful job. He did an incredible job. And we went to court, and the judges, Democrat judges, voted that he can, that's the only way you get by it. But generally speaking, you can't do that because you'll have judges from the other party. So Jay Clayton just got approved, and he's in, but he didn't get approved by the senators. He got approved by the court system in New York, which was a great thing. And I had a big victory in New York, I might add. I saved myself $500 million with a fake, corrupt attorney general, a really corrupt person with a corrupt judge who was disgraceful, and they're being mauled right now by everybody. It's so corrupt, and it kept business out of New York, stuff like that. But the appellate division vacated all of that stuff that you read about, and we're going to do a big number on that whole thing. You can't have a corrupt court system. You can't have that. You have to have borders, and you have to have a free press. Otherwise, you don't have a country. But you'll be hearing about the blue slipping, because if you have not, you don't need two senators. You just need one Democrat senator with a Republican. The only person that I can get approved are Democrats or maybe weak Republicans, but we don't want that. But the only person I will be able to get approved in any of those states where you have a Democrat I can't get a U.S. attorney. I can only get a Democrat U.S. attorney. And this is based on an old custom. It's not based on law, and I think it's unconstitutional, and I'll probably be filing a suit on that pretty soon. Yeah, please.
During the campaign, you called Kamala Harris a communist, but the Biden-Harris administration, they never called for nationalizing a private company with the federal government like you're proposing with Intel. What do you say to some who say this is a bit hypocritical, and is this the new way of doing industrial policy?
Yeah, sure it is. I want to try and get as much as I can. If people come in and they need something, as an example, as a real estate person, if I have an agreement and I have any form of a stopgap where I can stop somebody from doing something, right? I have a covenant in an agreement, and they come to me and they say, would like to do something, but you have us restricted. If I do that, they usually have to pay. Now, in the case of Intel, it was interesting, but I hope I'm going to have many more cases like it. Intel came in. I met with the gentleman. I had a lot of respect for him. He came in under a little bit of a cloud. I liked his story. I thought he was good. I think he really means to do a good job with Intel. I said, I'd like to ask whether or not you'd give, because the story, a lot of people said I invested in Intel. I didn't invest, but I invest my heart in it and my soul because I want the country to be strong. But I said, I'd like you to give 10% of Intel to the United States of America. Not to me, to the United States of America. And I said, if you have them as a partner, you have the United States as a partner, I think that would be a very good thing for Intel. And he thought about it, a little bit different, and he said, I like that idea very much. We have a deal. And I just made $10 billion or $11 billion for the United States of America. And yeah, there will be other cases. If I have that opportunity again, I would do that. And then, you do have stupid people say, oh, that's a shame. It's not a shame. It's called business. If somebody's willing to give you 10% of a company and you're not paying for it, and I will tell you, with a company like Intel, as you know, it's had difficulty. I want them to do well. I want them to do well anyway, but I want them to do well in particular now.
But isn't public ownership of a private company a new way of doing business in the business in the United States. Isn't that
Yeah.
what you were
So
sort of
are tariffs.
rejecting?
So are tariffs. So, as you know, the stock market went up almost 1,000 points on Friday. And it went up not because of this very, I think, terrible, hello? Who's that? Who is that back there? All right, get out of the room. It went up because of something much different. It went up because it was announced, CBO announced the numbers, and as you know, they gave no credit to tariffs. They said they made a mistake, that the trade deficit will be reduced because of Trump's tariffs, will be reduced by $4 trillion, right? Is that what they said, right? They said $4 trillion, and the market went up like a rocket ship because the tariffs are good. Well, tariffs aren't that usual. If the 7 wars I stopped, 4 of them were because of the fact that I had tariffs and trade. And I was able to say, well, if you do this, if you go fight and if you want to kill everybody, that's okay. But I'm going to charge you each 100% tariff when you trade with us. You know what? They all gave up. I stopped 7 wars. Numerous of them was because of tariffs. So, you know, you never knew the word tariff. It didn't exist really, essentially, in this country until actually in the 1870s up till 1913 it existed. And we were the richest country. We were richer then, proportionately, than at any time in the history of our country. And then, stupidly, in 1913, they said, let's go to the income tax way of life. Let the people pay instead of foreign countries. No. We're taking in trillions of dollars in tariffs, and we're stopping wars because of tariffs. So that's not so normal either. But you know what? Other countries did it to us, and now we're doing it to other countries.
You ruled out boots on the ground in Ukraine, but how would air support as part of a security guarantee be any different? Those U.S.
Well, you
airmen...
really went from one question to the next. You go from one. I expected he'd at least challenge me a little bit. Now we're talking about boots on the ground.
But U.S. air assets over the skies of Ukraine as part of a security guarantee, wouldn't those U.S. airmen also be
Well,
in
you
danger?
don't know what security guarantee is because we haven't even discussed the specifics of it. And we'll see. Number one, Europe is going to give them significant security guarantees, and they should because they're right there. But we'll be involved from the standpoint of backup. We're going to help them. And I think if we get a deal, and I think we will, but if we get a deal, you're not going to, I don't believe you're going to have much of a problem. But we'll back it up because I want to stop seeing people being killed. You know, when Biden was here, he gave $350 billion. You know this from covering business. $350 billion to Ukraine. I said that Zelensky's the greatest salesman I think I've ever met, better than P.T. Barnum, because he'd come to the country, he'd walk out with $50 billion every time. He actually came here once, he walked out with $100 billion. We're up to $350 billion. I got $1 trillion worth of rare earth that we have from the country because I felt badly for our taxpayer. But I did something else at the NATO meeting. They are wealthy countries, but they weren't paying. And we don't pay any money to Ukraine anymore. Do you know that? In fact, it's the opposite. They request through NATO, we deal with NATO. We don't deal really with Ukraine. NATO requests missiles. They want Patriots, they want missiles. We give the missiles to NATO. NATO pays us in full and does what they want. I mean, I think they give them mostly to, they can do other things with them too because we're dealing with NATO. We pay no money to Ukraine. We gave $350 billion to Ukraine. You know, if we didn't give that kind of money, and I was the one that gave the javelins, if you remember. I gave the javelins. They were very effective. They say Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. They were very effective with those tanks right at the beginning. But you would have never had a war if I were president. You would have never had a war. Just to finish, we spend no money on Ukraine anymore. We were getting fleeced by a president that didn't know what he was doing. To be honest, I don't blame Ukraine. I mean, if they come and ask for $100 billion, then they get it. But we were in for $350 billion. Now, we make money. I don't want to make money on Ukraine. I want the war to end because I want to save all those lives. I want to just save. But just so you understand, we're no longer losing money on that thing. We were losing money hand over fist. And now we don't lose any money. Now we sell weapons to NATO. because NATO agreed, because of me, to go to 5%. They had 2% and didn't pay. Now they have 5% and they're all paid up. So they have trillions of dollars and they give us that money. But I really want the war to end, and we're going to get it ended.
Mr. President, it's been 1 week since the historic summit here with Ukrainian President Zelensky. European leaders all met here with you at the White House. You said you wanted to get this done bilateral as soon as possible. Have you spoken to Putin since last Monday? Since
Yeah,
a week ago?
I have.
What is your conversation? Or can you share?
Every conversation I have with him is a good conversation, and then unfortunately a bomb is loaded up into Kiev or someplace, and then I get very angry about it. I think we're going to get the war done. It's tough. I thought that would be, of the 7 that I settled, I thought that would be the easiest of the group. See, you never know what's going to happen. You know, war, strange things happen in war. The fact that he went to Alaska, our country, I think was a big statement that he wants to get it done. That was not easy for him to go to Alaska, you know, for him to come here. But the fact that he showed up on a very successful day, it was a very successful day for other things. Because, you know, we're also talking about missiles, nuclear. We're talking about a lot of different things. We're talking about limiting nuclear weapons. We'll get China into that. We have the most. Russia has the second most, and China has third, but China is way behind, but they'll catch us in 5 years. We would like to denuclearize. It's too much power, and we talked about that also. That's part of it, but we have to get the war over with.
On Baltimore, sir. Thank you. On Baltimore, you said that you are going to have to reconsider bridge funding. Is that contingent on Westmore cleaning up the streets?
No, we were very generous to him on a bridge. You know, a boat ran into a bridge and the bridge came down like I've never seen anything. The boat was just, it just shows you the mass of that boat, the power of that boat. You know, people were up on that bridge, painters. They were painting the bridge and they were watching it happen. And they thought they were very safe. They all died. They were painting the bridge, can you imagine? And they watched the boat. The engines were off. And they watched the boat. And the power of that boat, the mass of that boat, went right through that steel just like it was nothing. It's amazing. It's called mass. Mass is a big deal. But the mass of that boat, those people all died. But they thought they were totally safe. Two of them were eating their lunch. They were, you know, whatever. They were watching it. They could have gotten off. Somebody did a very good job. A police officer called in and said, close the bridge. And he did it with power. Get everybody off the bridge, close that. That guy should get a medal because he stopped the bridge. A lot of people would have died. A lot more people would have died. The ones that died were the workers on the bridge. And they were just, they thought there was no danger because, you know, it's a big steel bridge. And it came down like toothpicks. It was incredible to watch that. It was just, and they died. They all died. But that police officer, again, the police do a great job. The police officer did an amazing job. And I heard the tapes. He would say, get everybody off. Most people wouldn't have said that. You know, when you see a thing like that, you assume it's going to, you know, tap the bridge and it's going to be rebuffed. The thing just came down. I've never seen anything like it. So he did a good job. In fact, I think we should get him in for a medal. The man that gave the warning, I listened to him. Everybody get off, screaming. Everybody off. He had the sense to realize that this could be a catastrophe as opposed to a ship that's, because the engines weren't working, it was just floating. It's an amazing thing that a thing floating like that with no power just knocked it right down like it was nothing.
So are you
Let's
using,
do that. Let's give him a medal. I've been thinking about it.
Mr. President, do you plan to investigate Chris Christie?
Say it what?
Do you plan to investigate Chris Christie?
Look, Chris is a slob. Everybody knows it. I know Chris better than anybody in the room. I always felt he was guilty. But what he did is he took the George Washington Bridge, which is very serious. He closed down the George Washington Bridge. And you had medical people, you had ambulances caught up. This thing was closed down. And obviously he knew about it. But he blamed the young lady that worked for him and another person, and they got into a lot of trouble. She ultimately was, I don't know, exonerated, but she got out of it a little bit. But she went through hell. She was a young mother, nice person. I knew her a little bit. And another man went to jail, and Chris got off. And so when I listened to Chris speak his hate, I say, oh, what about the George Washington Bridge? You know, tell me about the George Washington Bridge. He blamed other people, but he knew all about it. So no, I don't know if they want to look at it. It's not for me. If they want to look at it, they can. You could ask Pam. I think we have other things to do, but I always thought he got away with murder.
Mr. President, do you plan to make an endorsement in the Texas Senate race between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn?
Well, I'll make up my mind. I like them both. The worst situation I have is when I have two people that I get along with well. I hate it. And they all want the endorsement. You know, I'm almost 100% of the people I endorse win. It's a great honor. And I got, as you know, I got the largest vote in the history of Texas by far. Nobody's ever gotten more votes in the last election. I think in all the elections, the 3 elections. But they like me in Texas. So people are waiting for me, but I'd rather not comment on it right now. I like both guys. They're both friends of mine, and they're both good and very different.
There's some talk among congressional Republicans about another reconciliation bill. Where do you fall on that, and what would you like to prioritize?
Well, I don't want to do cutting. I want to save all the different things. I'm going to cut things that are unnecessary, but the one thing I said, and I gave my word, we're not going to hurt anybody on Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. And in fact, we're doing great on Social Security. We found 300,000 illegals on Social Security. We got them out. And, you know, things like that make Social Security very, very strong. So, no, I am very big into certain things. And one of those 3, you could say 3 of those things are Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We're going to protect it. And so we'll see how everything works out. If we're talking about rescissions on other things, I'm always open to cost cutting. If we can cost cut, I like it, but nothing's going to happen to medical. We have something coming up, favored nations, where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,500% where a pill that sells in Germany for $10 costs $150 here because of the bad press. And I was all set to do it, and then we had the COVID come up, and I had to focus on that because we had the greatest economy in history my first term. I will tell you that we are going to be doing numbers on the cost of drugs in this country that I'm not talking about a 20% decrease, which would be great. I'm talking about 1,000% decrease. We're talking about where a product would sell for $80 in Germany and $1,300 here. We're not going to do that. We were subsidizing the entire world. And we're not doing it anymore. I informed the drug companies. I informed the world. And if the world wants to, if countries in the world don't want to go along, then I'm going to put tariffs on those countries, and we'll make more money. But they have to go along with it. So this is moving along rapidly. Dr. Oz is in charge, Bobby's group, and they're doing very well. And we're getting great cooperation from the drug, because the drug companies know it's unfair. You know, for years they'd say, well, we had to do research, and we had to do. I said, I don't care. You had to do research for these other countries also. They are ready to go, and I'm ready to go. And, you know, if I pull that off, there's no way a Republican will lose an election. There's no way. All right, one more question. Steve.
On Ukraine, Mr. President.
Steve,
Back to Ukraine.
watch this guy. He's the nicest guy I know, and he asks the most vicious questions.
Why do you think President Putin is so reluctant to meet with President Zelensky?
Because he doesn't like him. He doesn't like them, you know? They don't like, I have people I don't like. I don't like to meet with them. Sometimes they do like to meet with people I don't like.
So how do you get them together?
They don't like each other, really. And if we had a real president, instead of a guy that got in there with a fraudulent election, if we had a real president, that war would have never happened. Putin actually said, if Trump were president, it wouldn't have happened. Happened for a lot of reasons. Happened because of Afghanistan. When he saw how incompetent Milley was and all these guys were, I think he said, wow, this might be it. Because it was the apple of his eye. It would have never happened if I were president.
Mr. President, you have built a relationship with Russian leaders and also North Korean leaders. As they are getting closer, how would that affect your diplomatic approach?
Well, I have very good relationships with Kim Jong-un, North Korea. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's good. In fact, someday I'll see him. I look forward to seeing him. He was very good with me. We had 2 meetings. We had 2 summits. We got along great. I know him better than you do. I know him better than anybody, almost, other than his sister. His sister knows him pretty well. No, I know him well, and I got along with him. You know, I'm not supposed to say I really like him a lot, because if I do that, I get killed in the fake news media. But I got along with him very well, and we had no problem. If at the time Hillary Clinton won the election, you would have had a nuclear war. You would have had a nuclear war. We're not going to have a nuclear war. Once that happens, it's over. We're not going to have a nuclear war. No, but Kim Jong-un will meet at some point. I look forward to it, actually. But do you notice that since I came into office, you haven't had a problem with him? It hasn't been, you know, he tests lots of rockets. He does have great capability, I will say that. But I think a lot of good things are happening for our country, a lot of really good things. And the thing we're here today to talk about is crime, and specifically in D.C. I am so proud of what these people, every one of them, what they've done in D.C., because to literally stop crime on a button. I'd walk down that street right now. If I were, friends of mine are going out to dinner now. They haven't gone out to dinner in 4 years. They were afraid, they were petrified. Half the restaurants closed because nobody could go because they're afraid to go outside. Now those restaurants are open, and new restaurants are opening up. It's like a boom town. It's a great thing to see, and I'm very proud of the people behind me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Press.